The Haunting of Hill House is a new supernatural drama series that has appeared on Netflix. It's by Mike Flanagan of Oculus, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Gerald's Game and Hush. All good films in their own right. This is a 10-part series. Each episode is about 40-45 minutes long, with the final episode being a little bit extended. It stars Timothy Hutton. The main sort of character is a chap off Game of Thrones called Michiel Huisman, or Michael Huisman, depending on how you pronounce it. And Carla Gugino, or Gugino, however one pronounces that. It's an ensemble cast, to be honest. It follows the Crane family through two separate timelines. One in 1992, when a young family move into a house that they're intending to flip, that house being Hill House. And then they have strange supernatural occurrences change their lives, let's say. And then you meet up with them about 20 years later, with their lives having forever been changed due to the occurrences at the house. They're brought together because they're somewhat estranged by the death of one of their family. There are 5 children, obviously the 2 parents, and one of the children dies. There will be spoilers in this, so just be prepared for that, but I won't totally ruin it. The story follows them, and it has numerous intertwining threads, and it takes a couple of episodes to get into, because you have to understand what's happening with the narrative structure of it in order to fully enjoy it. And purposely you don't understand until about 2 or 3 episodes into the series, and then the penny drops and you sort of get along for the ride. There are nice little sort of chilling moments throughout it where you have ghosts and supernatural occurrences that will sort of send a shiver down your spine. And it's not that it's all on jump scares, and there's not really a lot of that kind of stuff in it, but it's more sort of an unnerving sense of dread and atmosphere that gets under the skin, which is a much better type of horror, particularly if you're watching a 10-episode series where you get involved with the characters. You can tell there's differences between the 2 time periods because the colour grading or palette is different between the 2. The 1992 timeline is a lot brighter and happier because they haven't had the terrible things happen to them, and then in the modern day it's all a bit dulled and grey because people aren't happy and they're all a bit dour and down. The acting throughout is good. I don't think there is one weak actor in it. You might think people are weak actors, but that's only until you realise what's happened to their character and why they're playing the part like that. If you've seen Oculus, you'll understand that there is some messing with the narratives and time. It's very similar actually in structure to the first Netflix series of Arrested Development, where you have all of the stories for the different characters going on at once, and they cross over, and you might see a little bit of a scene from one person's point of view, but then see the whole scene from another person's point of view, and how they cross and intersect. And it's very clever and very nicely done. From IMDb, it would seem that Mike Flanagan directed and wrote every episode, and you can understand why you would have to do that in order to have continuity, because he couldn't just shoot a bit of a scene. You have to shoot the entire scene and then edit it up, and it must have been an absolute nightmare editing. Timothy Hutton is really good in this. He's entirely understated and underplayed in his character, and that works really well. He comes across as a real person who's had real problems and real sort of weight laid on his shoulders over the years. As you watch the series, you'll find out why. It doesn't sort of stiff you on developments in the plot. You're not left there waiting for 9 or 10 episodes to get any payoff. There's a sort of mid-season payoff in episode 5 that's really good. There's also, a lot of playing with technical skills in this as well. In episode 6, I think it is, the one that's named after Two Storms, it's called. There is a clear change in style where it's shot more like a stage play, with it being made up of maybe 2 or 3 scenes that are clearly all done, or at least I couldn't see the cuts anyway, clearly all done in one take. And initially I said to my wife, well, what's going on here? This is a bit like weird that they haven't changed. And then you realise that yes, it's being done like a stage play, there's a lot of acting going on, and it must have been quite difficult for them to film, because they actually do sort of in-camera tricks for ghosts and supernatural things that you think, wow, that's some good timing, and that works really well. And there are lots of things like that in this. There's a particular set of scenes in one of the latter episodes where he's trying to find out where a noise is coming from behind a wall. He's chiseling through the wall, and if you don't look carefully in the background of the shots when he's dealing with this wall, you might not notice that there's a horrific looking figure sort of clawing itself way round the side in the background that's sort of watching him as he's doing it, and that made me go all shivery, because when you see it you think, shit, how long's that been there for? It's a great series, doesn't need a second series, it wraps itself up very neatly at the end of the first series, and I think it stands on its own 2 feet as a sort of TV event rather than a sort of a franchise or a series that needs to go on, because it ends with an explanation as to how the house works and what is going on there. It doesn't go deep into the history of the house, but you can see that the house can either be considered evil or good depending on your point of view, and I think that's a nice sort of ambiguous ending, and it's nice and creepy as well. And the house itself, just as a final point, looks great. There's a lot of effort and a lot of time clearly gone into the set design and production on the show, and a lot of that energy and effort has been poured into the house set. I also think it's worth mentioning that it's a retelling of the same story that was told in The Haunting, the 1999 film from Jan de Bont starring Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Both are totally different, and there are very few similarities in the series and film. I've not read the book myself, but I understand that the 1999 film is actually a bit closer to the book. I'm not saying a lot, but just a bit. But I don't think it really matters. Any sort of TV or movie production should stand on its own 2 feet without anyone having to have prior knowledge of any sort of other material that it might have been adapted from. But you know, it's an interesting point to put out there. So the Haunting of Hill House, 100% worth watching, particularly over Halloween, and it's the kind of show that you can binge watch in bits. You don't have to watch the whole thing through. I found that I was watching like maybe 2 or 3 episodes at a time, like sort of a mini movie length, and really enjoying it like that, because you could just digest it as you went along.